The engines in Suzuka, I mean, they've barely even cooled down.
Yeah, they're still smoking.
Exactly. The smell of scorched carbon fiber, blistered Pirelli rubber, it's still hanging really heavy in the humid Japanese air right now.
Oh, absolutely.
The grandstands are empty,
Yeah.
right? The paddock is getting packed up into those massive steel shipping crates. And let me tell you this, the real fire right now, it is just raging inside the motorhomes.
Raging. It's an absolute inferno in there.
We are standing at the epicenter of a shockwave that could, well, it could completely shatter the foundation of the pinnacle of motorsport. Really need to picture this scenario because it defies every single piece of racing logic we have ever grown up with.
Totally defies it. It makes zero sense on paper.
Right. A 27-year-old four-time world champion,
Yeah.
a driver in the undeniable, terrifying prime of his physical and mental abilities. I mean, this is a generational predator who was basically built in a lab to win motor races, and he is standing on the edge of the abyss.
Look right down into it.
Looking down, and he is seriously contemplating just walking away from it all. I'm talking about Max Verstappen.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about an earthquake in the sport that threatens to bring the whole house down. Now, just to be clear up front, this segment is part of our news coverage of recent F1 events.
Right.
We are dropping the hammer on the biggest story in motorsport right now. Welcome to DRS Zone, you know, the only place where we keep the throttle pinned and the analysis entirely ruthless.
Man, what a seismic event this actually is. Like, we're not just talking about a driver being, unhappy with a car setup or grumbling about a bad pit stop on the radio.
Right, no, this isn't just complaining about understeer.
Exactly. We are witnessing a fundamental crisis of faith from the most dominant, unrelenting force of the modern era. This is a complete paradigm shift in how a champion views the sport he dedicated his entire existence to conquering.
Spot on. So, here's the mission for today's deep dive. We are ripping apart the explosive inside reports, the furious paddock whispers, the direct interviews that all suggest Max Verstappen is seriously preparing to pull the ripcord and retire after the 2026 season.
It sounds crazy to say out loud, but it's real.
It's very real. We are going to forensically break down the total disaster class of a weekend he just suffered in Japan. We're going to analyze the deeply toxic, thoroughly broken relationship he has developed with these new 2026 regulations.
The regulations that he literally hates.
Despises them. We'll tear into the complete and utter collapse of the old Red Bull guard, the 50 million euro exit clause that's just hovering over the team like a guillotine right now, and what this catastrophic fallout means for the future of racing.
So much to get through.
So strap in, hold on tight, because we are pulling serious G-forces today. Let's pivot directly from these overarching, paddock-shattering rumors to the brutal, unforgiving reality of the asphalt at the Japanese Grand Prix. Because what we just saw at Suzuka, it wasn't just a bad race.
No.
It wasn't just an off weekend. It was a public humiliation.
It was a structural collapse of an empire, broadcast on live television across the globe. You really have to look at the telemetry data, look at the timing screens, and just look at the sheer despair radiating from that garage.
Oh, the body language was awful.
It was devastating. Red Bull is no longer just like slipping down the order. They are actively languishing in the midfield. They are miles, and I mean literally miles in racing terms, away from the podium fight.
Yeah.
The gap to the front is no longer measured in tenths of a second. It's measured in different zip codes right now.
Miles. Let's talk about the reality of Sunday for a second. Max Verstappen, the Dutch Lion, finished in a dismal, totally anonymous 8th place. 8th.
Unbelievable.
This is a guy who just a couple of seasons ago usually had a 30-second lead by lap 10. He was literally asking his race engineer if they should do an extra pit stop just for practice.
The famous pit stop banter, yeah.
And who was he stuck behind for 40 laps at Suzuka this time? Pierre Gasly's Alpine. An Alpine powered by a Mercedes engine, ironically enough, just walking away from him on the straights. Max was trapped in the dirty air, hopelessly fighting a car that looked like it was, it looked like it was driving on ice through the S-curves.
Just sliding everywhere, no rear grip at all.
But wait, here's the ultimate insult. The definitive bagger to the ego of a four-time champion. On Saturday, in qualifying, on a track that demands pure, unadulterated bravery and precision,
The ultimate driver's track.
Max was outqualified by his own teammate, Isaac Hadjar.
And that right there is the specific variable that changes the entire psychological equation. Getting beaten by a teammate in inferior machinery is the canary in the coal mine for a champion's mindset.
It really is. It shifts everything.
To truly understand the violent whiplash Max is experiencing right now, you have to look at the historical context. We are talking about a driver whose very DNA has been fundamentally rewritten by total domination.
Yeah, 13 seasons in Formula One.
71 victories, 48 pole positions, 127 podiums. That level of success, it doesn't just build confidence, it creates a highly specific psychological baseline.
Right, you expect perfection.
You demand it from everyone around you, from the factory, from the car. Just last year, in 2025, he lost his 5th world title by a mere 2 points on the very last lap of the season.
Yeah, that agonizing, titanic, heavyweight battle that went right down to the wire.
Exactly. And the year before that, 2024, he won this exact race at Suzuka from pole position, utterly controlling the pace, managing the tire degradation perfectly, and just holding off 2 charging McLarens without even breaking a sweat.
He owned that track. Suzuka is the ultimate driver's circuit. The S-curves in Sector 1, plunging down into Degner 1 and 2, the endless double apex of the spoon curve, and the terrifying flat-out blast through 130R.
It's legendary.
He used to be a maestro, conducting an orchestra of aerodynamics and horsepower around that figure-8 layout. And now we look at the standings. And the rookie sensation, Kimi Antonelli, is leading the world championship in the Mercedes.
Rookie.
While Max Verstappen is fighting in the mud for scraps, wrestling a car that refuses to turn in, refuses to put the power down, and literally eats its rear tires for breakfast.
It breaks a driver.
Yeah.
It genuinely fractures their competitive spirit. Going from that pinnacle of godlike control over the machinery where the car feels like, an extension of your own nervous system, to wrestling a midfield tractor just to secure a handful of points.
It's torture.
It causes a profound existential crisis for an elite athlete. It is a violent psychological whiplash. When you know exactly how to take a corner, like your brain maps the exact trajectory, but the car simply refuses to comply. The frustration is blinding.
Okay, let me push back on this for a second. Let me play devil's advocate, because I know there are fans out there screaming at their speakers right now, waving their arms in the air, going, wait a minute.
Oh, I hear them already.
Isn't this just a spoiled champion throwing his toys out of the pram because his car is suddenly bad? I mean, come on, we've seen this movie before.
Classic narrative.
It's like a master swordsman who has relied on a priceless razor-sharp katana for a decade, and the moment you hand him a blunt butter knife, he threatens to quit the battlefield entirely.
Right.
Lewis went through it in 2022 and 2023 with the bouncing Mercedes. Fernando Alonso went through it for years in the McLaren-Honda era. Why does Max get a pass to threaten retirement just because Red Bull finally built a dud? Why isn't he rolling up his sleeves and leading the team out of the darkness?
Because that is a complete misreading of what Max is actually saying, and we have the direct interviews from recent reports to prove it.
Okay, lay it out.
Max has explicitly, categorically denied that this is simply about having a bad car. He went on the record with inside sources just this week to address this exact criticism. He pointed out his history.
Which is fair. He hasn't always been the fastest car.
Exactly. He has been in non-dominant machinery before. Look at his early years at Red Bull, from 2016 to 2020, when the Mercedes hybrid engine was completely untouchable.
Right. They were miles ahead back then.
He has accepted finishing 7th or 8th in the past because he deeply understands the cyclical nature of Formula One. You cannot dominate forever. Aerodynamic eras rise and fall. The issue, and this is the absolute core of the crisis, isn't where he is finishing on the timing tower.
So what is it?
It is how the car feels underneath him.
How it feels, the actual visceral, tactile sensation of driving.
Exactly. He is a purist. And right now, the pure sensation of driving has been completely eradicated by the rule book. He said, and I quote from a recent Paddock interview, "I try to adapt, but it's not beautiful to race like this."
Beautiful. That's a strong word for him.
Pay attention to that word. He is talking about the tactile feedback through the heavy steering wheel, the organic response of the chassis when you clip an apex, the sheer visceral thrill of pushing a mechanical beast to its physical limit on the edge of adhesion.
And the current regulations have stripped all of that away.
Every ounce of it. He accepts losing to a faster team. He refuses to accept being bored out of his mind while doing it.
If it's not just the scoreboard making him miserable, it undeniably has to be the machinery itself. We need to lift the carbon fiber hood on these 2026 regulations, because this is where the rubber meets the very frustrating road.
Oh, it's a mess under there.
The entire paradigm of how a Formula One car generates speed has shifted, and Max hates it. We have to look at what Max calls, quote, the opposite of driving.
That is his exact phrasing, direct from the sources.
Yeah.
Max has stated unequivocally that this 2026 generation of cars is the opposite of driving. That is a devastating, damning indictment from the sport's biggest star.
It's insane.
When the fastest man on the planet says your rule book is fundamentally flawed, you have a massive problem.
The opposite of driving. Are you kidding me? You have 20 of the fastest cars on the planet, producing over 1,000 horsepower, pulling 5 Gs in the corners, and the guy behind the wheel says it's not even driving anymore.
Because it isn't. Not really.
The core issue here, from all the technical reports we are seeing, is this extreme, obsessive focus on battery management and constant energy regeneration. Let's break down the mechanics of this 2026 power unit for you guys.
Yeah, let's get into the weeds.
They changed the formula. They completely ripped out the MGUH, the motor generator unit heat, which used to harvest energy from the exhaust gases. And in its place, to make up for that lost power, they mandated a massive 50-50 power split between the internal combustion engine and the electrical battery system.
Half and half.
Exactly. Half your power is coming from a V6 turbo, and the other half is entirely dependent on electrical deployment.
And that 50-50 split is a nightmare for a natural racer. Let me break down the reality of the cockpit right now. Formula One in 2026 is no longer about pure racing. It is an exercise in extreme, agonizing resource management.
Agonizing is the word.
Because you rely so heavily on electrical power to maintain top speed on the straights, the battery drains incredibly fast. If you run out of battery before the end of a long straight, the car essentially hits a brick wall of aerodynamic drag.
It just dies.
It derates. You lose hundreds of horsepower in an instant. So to prevent that, the drivers have to obsessively harvest kinetic energy under braking.
And the worst part of that energy harvesting is the lift and coast. Oh my God, the lift and coast.
It's brutal.
The MGUK, that system strapped to the engine that recovers kinetic energy from the rear brakes, it needs time to charge the battery. So you're diving into a corner, say the hairpin at Suzuka. Your natural instincts, developed over 2 decades of racing, are screaming at you to brake at the 100-meter board.
Stump on the pedal.
You want to stamp on that brake pedal at the last possible millisecond. But instead, your race engineer is in your ear telling you to lift off the gas 300 meters early. You aren't braking, you're just taking your foot off the throttle and gliding.
Gliding. In a Formula One car.
You're coasting towards the corner like you're pulling up to a red light in a minivan just to let the MGUK drag the car down and charge the battery. You are intentionally driving slow.
Exactly. It completely neuters the racing instinct. It goes against every predatory reflex they have developed since they were karting at 5 years old.
It's entirely unnatural for them.
You are artificially neutering the speed of the car, managing a digital energy bar on your steering wheel dash rather than attacking the circuit. Adapting to it isn't a beautiful display of car control, it's an administrative chore.
It's paperwork.
It is data entry at high speed. Max literally said, "I'm here to have fun," and right now, it isn't. When you are constantly looking at a delta on your dashboard telling you how much energy you need to save for the next sector, you aren't racing the driver next to you, you are racing a spreadsheet.
It's like asking a world-class Olympic sprinter like Usain Bolt to run a marathon, but telling him he has to solve complex calculus equations in his head while doing it.
Yes.
It totally kills the primal thrill. You are taking the most instinctual, aggressive, leap-breaking driver on the grid and turning him into an accountant balancing an energy ledger at 200 miles per hour.
And doing it in cars that weigh a ton.
Right. Because the cars are so heavy now with these massive battery packs, they handle like absolute boats in the slow corners. They are sluggish. They lack agility.
That is the perfect analogy, the accountant at 200 miles per hour. And you have to extrapolate the tragedy of this situation for the sport. We're looking at a driver in his prime, 27 years old.
The peak.
This is the exact age where historically Formula One drivers combine raw, unbridled youthful speed with veteran tactical experience to produce their most mesmerizing legendary performances.
Think of Schumacher in his late 20s. Or Senna.
Exactly. This should be Max's golden era. And yet he feels that stepping into a Formula One car is a joyless, hollow exercise.
It's depressing.
He has stated that he loves his team. He calls them his second family. He enjoys the mechanics, the engineers, the banter in the garage, the routine of a race weekend. But the second that visor goes down, the fun dies.
The fun just dies.
The pure, intoxicating joy of motorsport evaporates, replaced by the dread of managing a battery.
That is heartbreaking for anyone who loves the purity of racing. But, and we gotta be real here, let's inject a heavy dose of reality into this. Wanting to quit and legally being allowed to walk away from a multi-million-dollar commitment are two very different things.
Very different. The lawyers usually win.
You can't just unbuckle your 6-point harness, toss your sweaty gloves in the back of the garage, and walk away from a contract without causing a legal and financial earthquake. Max is officially contracted with Red Bull Racing until the end of 2028. That was the mega deal he signed.
Yeah, it was massive.
You don't just tear up a contract like that unless you want a swarm of corporate lawyers descending on you.
Well, you don't tear it up, but you certainly exploit the escape hatches negotiated by your management team.
Ah, the famous clauses.
And the inside reports circulating through the paddock are confirming that the landscape of that specific contract has shifted dramatically in recent months. The clauses in Max's contract were significantly softened.
Really? How recently?
Quite recently. These exit clauses were specifically designed and activated to allow him to change scenery after 2026 if the team wasn't competitive under these new regulations.
So they saw this coming.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
His management team, led by his father Jos Verstappen and Raymond Vermeulen, foresaw the massive risk of the 2026 engine regulations and built a parachute.
And let's be explicitly clear about why he insisted on those clauses and why he has every right to look for the exit door right now. The team environment he committed to when he signed that 2028 extension is radically, fundamentally different today than it was even a year ago.
A completely different team.
The three foundational pillars of the Red Bull dynasty, the architects of his success, the men who built the team around him, are gone.
All of them.
Team principal Christian Horner, gone. The ruthless talent scout, political mastermind, and Max's fierce protector, Helmut Marko, gone. And perhaps the most devastating blow of all, the sheer god of aerodynamic design, Adrian Newey.
Eliminated from the picture.
Eliminated. In the last 12 months, the entire brain trust that built the Red Bull empire has collapsed into dust.
It is a total unprecedented brain drain. And we have to connect the dots here for anyone wondering why Red Bull suddenly forgot how to build a fast race car.
It's not a coincidence.
Not at all. You cannot separate the massive exodus of leadership and engineering genius from the current terrible performance of the RB22 on the track. Red Bull isn't the team Max signed his life away to anymore. It's a hollowed-out shell of the championship-winning machine it once was.
Just coasting on past glory.
Adrian Newey's departure alone is catastrophic. Newey has a unique, almost supernatural understanding of aerodynamic flow structures. He understands ground effect aerodynamics better than anyone alive.
He's the aero whisperer.
With the massive aerodynamic changes in 2026, the active aero meant to reduce drag on the straights to help the struggling batteries. Red Bull desperately needed Newey's vision. Without him, the correlation between their wind tunnel data and the actual track performance has completely fallen apart.
So the data they see in the factory doesn't match what the car does on track.
Exactly. The car they brought to Suzuka was an unpredictable mess. Max is looking around the garage, looking at the pit wall, and realizing he is the last man standing in a collapsing building.
And then there's the massive financial reality of extracting him from that collapsing building. Let's talk numbers, because Max commands over 50 million euros a season.
Huge money.
50 million. If he triggers that exit clause, who can even afford to cash that check? The paddock consensus, driven by recent reports, is that only Ferrari can comfortably shoulder that astronomical cost without blinking, though Mercedes remains highly aggressively interested in acquiring him.
Mercedes would love to steal him.
Mercedes has the backing of massive corporate sponsors who would love nothing more than to see Verstappen in silver.
The financial logistics are staggering. 50 million euros is a massive chunk of any team's operating budget, even under the cost cap, because driver salaries are exempt.
Right, salaries don't count towards the cap.
But you have to look at the political maneuvering behind the scenes. Mercedes has been desperate for a marquee championship-winning name to anchor their new era alongside their young talent, Kimi Antonelli.
They need that benchmark.
They want the ultimate benchmark. And Ferrari is always looking to consolidate ultimate power. The allure of bringing the greatest driver of his generation to Maranello is a temptation Ferrari's upper management cannot resist. But make no mistake, Max holds every single card here.
Oh,
The
absolutely.
teams are dancing to his tune.
Okay, I have to ask the ultimate cynical question here, because Formula One is a shark tank of politics and posturing.
Always.
Are these retirement threats just a massive, calculated bluff? Is Max Verstappen essentially holding a loaded gun to Red Bull's head to trigger that 2026 exit clause so he can jump ship to a much faster Mercedes or Ferrari?
It's a great question.
Right. Is this whole "I hate the regulations, I want to retire" narrative just high-stakes contract warfare masked as an existential crisis? We've seen drivers play this game to get out of bad teams before.
It is a very tempting theory, and in the politically charged, cutthroat waters of Formula One, you can never, ever discount a pressure tactic. Contract negotiations are a blood sport.
They really are.
But if you analyze Max's specific personality profile, how he has operated since he entered the sport at 17, he is radical, he is fiercely ambitious, and he marches exclusively to the beat of his own drum.
He doesn't care about the PR game.
He doesn't play the media games the way other drivers do. He doesn't leak strategic half-truths to the press. When he says he is unhappy, it's visceral. It's written all over his face.
You could see it at Suzuka. He looked miserable.
The evidence suggests he genuinely might prefer walking away entirely over spending another weekend driving a car he actively hates, regardless of the 50 million euros on the table. Money has never been his primary motivator. Pure speed, pure competition is.
And if he walks away, where does a 27-year-old speed addict actually go? He isn't going to just sit on a beach in Monaco sipping espresso. He isn't going to take up golf. The guy lives and breathes racing. He has a massive sim racing rig in his living room that he jumps into hours after finishing a real Grand Prix.
I know, it's crazy.
That brings us to what life beyond the Grand Circus actually looks like for him. Because the sources are telling us he is already looking fiercely at other horizons, and he is laying the groundwork for a massive career pivot.
He is deeply, obsessively passionate about GT3 racing. This isn't just a casual hobby. It is rapidly becoming a primary focus.
He's putting his own money into it, right?
He has been funding and managing his own GT3 squad for a while now, slowly building the infrastructure, hiring the right people.
We are getting intense reports that he is slated to race the legendary 24 Hours of Nürburgring, the green hell.
Which is madness.
And he's doing it with his own team, Verstappen.com Racing, partnering with Mercedes for the GT3 machinery. And if taking on the most dangerous track in the world isn't enough, he is heavily flirting with the idea of racing at the 24 Hours of Le Mans, the absolute crown jewel of endurance racing.
It makes total sense for him.
I mean, listen to this direct quote from the man himself, given to Inside Sources just recently. "If I stop, it doesn't mean I'll sit still. I don't want people to feel bad for me."
Wow.
He is already packing his bags. He is mentally checking out of the F1 paddock and visualizing the Mulsanne Straight.
To truly understand this pivot, you have to look at the purity of endurance racing in GT3 right now and contrast it with the hyper-regulated, battery-managed, artificially constrained world of 2026 Formula One.
Okay, lay out the difference.
Let's look at the Nürburgring Nordschleife. It is a terrifying, undulating, brutal ribbon of tarmac cutting through a dense German forest. It has over 70 treacherous corners, blind crests, changing weather systems where it can be raining on one side of the track and sunny on the other, and practically zero runoff areas.
It's just you and the guardrail.
It demands ultimate, unwavering commitment. There is no lift and coast at the Nürburgring. There is no staring at an energy management dashboard while diving into the carousel.
You just drive.
It is raw, untamed racing, where the driver's bravery is the ultimate differentiator. And Max is blindingly fast in a GT3 car there, despite having incredibly limited real-world practice time compared to the series veterans who run that track every weekend.
And GT3 cars are fundamentally different beasts. They are heavy, they have ABS, they have traction control, but they are based on actual homologated road cars. You can lean on them.
You can throw them around.
You can bang doors with other drivers. You can actually race wheel to wheel without your front wing shattering into a million pieces because you looked at it wrong.
Exactly.
And then there's Le Mans, the Circuit de la Sarthe. 24 hours of navigating through slower traffic, driving through the pitch black night, managing the mechanical empathy of the car. We've seen F1 champions make this leap before and find a renewed love for racing.
Oh, totally.
Fernando Alonso went to Le Mans and won it twice. Nico Hülkenberg won it while still actively racing in F1. The appeal of sharing a car with teammates, of fighting a 24-hour war of attrition is massive.
Le Mans represents the exact elements of motorsport that Formula One is currently suppressing. It's long-run mechanical endurance, sheer human stamina, and the primal battle between man, machine, and the elements.
Yeah.
The Formula One rulebook has stripped the soul out of his driving experience by turning it into a mathematics exam. GT3 and hypercar endurance racing give that soul back. It is a terrifying prospect for Formula One executives to realize that their biggest draw, the most recognizable global icon, would rather race in a supposedly lower category just to feel alive again.
It's exactly like a generational rock star. Think about it. It's like a massively talented rock star who is absolutely sick of playing overproduced, mathematically calculated, auto-tuned stadium pop.
That's a brilliant way to put it.
Right. He's tired of the synchronized pyrotechnics and the backing tracks, so he quits the biggest record label in the world, walks away from the massive $100 million arena tours, just so he can go play raw, sweaty, unadulterated punk rock in underground clubs.
Hey.
He doesn't care about the stadium lights anymore. He just wants to feel the music again. He wants to feel the vibration of the strings, just like Max wants to feel the mechanical feedback through the steering wheel.
That is precisely what Le Mans and the Nürburgring offer him. Authenticity. The visceral connection to the machinery that hybrid regulations have basically severed. And the moment Max officially announces he is running Le Mans, millions of eyeballs will shift from Formula One to the World Endurance Championship.
Instantly. The commercial implications are staggering.
Unbelievable commercial implications.
And you better believe the executives in charge of Formula One are terrified of that exact scenario, which brings us to the panic at the very top. The governing body of Formula One, the FIA, is watching their biggest, most marketable, most ruthlessly talented star pack his bags, and they are officially hitting the panic button.
Oh, the alarms are ringing.
They are scrambling because the house is on fire.
It is sheer, unadulterated panic in the corridors of power in Paris and Geneva. The FIA is reacting, and they are reacting with unprecedented speed. Regulators do not usually move this fast unless disaster is literally imminent.
Following the massive Behrman crash recently, which, by the way, really highlighted some of the erratic, unpredictable aerodynamic and hybrid deployment behaviors of these 2026 cars when they suddenly lose downforce or power, the FIA has confirmed they are holding emergency closed-door meetings.
Secret meeting.
They are pulling in the team principals and the engine manufacturers for crisis talks. And the goal isn't just safety anymore, though that is always the public talking point. The explicit goal, according to intense reports from inside the paddock, is to study rapid, immediate solutions to improve the racing spectacle and, crucially, make these cars something the drivers actually want to drive.
We want to stop the bleeding.
They want to fix the opposite of driving. And get this timeline, because this is where it gets insane. They are hoping to apply these emergency technical changes as early as the Miami Grand Prix.
Which is madness.
Miami. That is literally right around the corner.
The logistics of that timeline are almost impossible, which tells you exactly how high the threat level is internally. Formula One, as a massive, multi-billion-dollar commercial entity, simply cannot afford to lose a generational talent like Max Verstappen because their own technical rulebook made the sport too boring to endure.
The TV ratings would tank.
The loss in viewership, the loss in ticket sales, especially in markets like Zandvoort and Spa, which rely entirely on the Orange Army, it would be catastrophic. They're facing immense, crushing pressure to fundamentally rewrite the technical DNA of these cars mid-season.
Right in the middle of a championship?
They have to find a way to reduce the reliance on extreme energy regeneration. They need to figure out how to give the drivers mechanical grip back by Miami.
But let me push back hard on this, because engineering reality has to kick in at some point, right?
Yeah.
Can you actually fix a fundamentally flawed, battery-heavy 50-50 hybrid car mid-season?
Probably not the way they want to.
Are we talking about a simple software update to the power unit? Or are these just desperate band-aids on a sinking ship to keep Max from breaching his contract? You can't just redesign an engine in 3 weeks.
You are exactly right. You cannot redesign a hybrid power unit in a month. The hardware is locked in. The engine blocks are cast. What they might attempt are rapid software-based adjustments to the aerodynamic deployment rules.
Okay, like what?
For example, changing the DRS zones or altering the active aero regulations to allow the cars to carry more speed without draining the battery as fast. They might change the software mapping that dictates how aggressively the MGUK harvests kinetic energy under braking, perhaps reducing the need for extreme lift and coast.
But that's just tweaking the margins, right?
Yes, and it is incredibly dangerous territory for the sports regulators. Synthesizing the engineering reality with the political pressure creates a massive conflict of interest.
Because what does this mean for the integrity of the 2026 championship? We just talked about Kimi Antonelli leading the world championship in a Mercedes. He and his team build a car that works under the current regulations. They mastered the battery management. If the FIA changes the rules on the fly, mid-season, specifically to appease a disgruntled former champion in a Red Bull who's threatening to quit, it completely compromises the sporting legitimacy of the entire season.
It is opening Pandora's box. The moment you change the fundamental operating parameters of the car mid-season to have one specific team or driver profile, you invite total chaos.
Mercedes would go ballistic.
Mercedes will be furious. Every team on the grid that got the regulations right will bring their lawyers to the paddock. It is a complete, unmitigated mess. Formula One is trapped in a lose-lose scenario. They are caught between alienating their biggest global star and compromising the integrity of their own rulebook.
And that brings us to the boiling point, the ultimate question we have to ask as we close out this deep dive in the DRS zone. You really need to take a step back and think about this for a second.
Yeah.
If the most purely talented, ruthless, hyper-competitive driver of his generation looks at the pinnacle of motorsport, the fastest, most technologically advanced racing cars ever conceived by human engineering, and says, I'd rather be doing something else because this is the opposite of driving, what does that say about what Formula One has become?
It says the formula is broken.
If the hyper-complex, battery-saving, tire-managing cars are literally driving the purest racers away, who is this sport actually for anymore? Is it for the corporate sponsors?
Maybe.
The hybrid engine manufacturers? The data analysts on the well, because it certainly feels like it isn't for the racers anymore.
It is a profound existential question, perhaps the most important question the sport has faced in decades, and they must find an answer before the lights go out in Miami. The soul of Formula One is entirely on the line.
And you know we will be tracking every single development, every rumor, and every telemetry trace of this massive paddock fallout. The grid never sleeps, the rumors never stop, and neither does DRS Zone. If you want to stay ahead of the apex and understand exactly what is happening behind the closed garage doors, you need to follow the show right now. Go to our TikTok, hit us up on Instagram, and subscribe on YouTube so you do not miss a single second of this breaking story. We are bringing the heat every single time. Keep your foot to the floor, and we'll see you in the DRS Zone.